All right, welcome. We're going to talk about something really cool today. This idea that sometimes the biggest letdowns, the things that hurt the most, can actually turn into the best things that ever happened to you.
Have you ever been just so excited about something? That can't sleep the night before kind of excited? Maybe it was a birthday party or a huge trip you were taking, or finally getting that new game you'd been wanting forever. You can just feel it, right? That buzz.
And then, poof, it doesn't happen. Oh man, that feeling is just the worst, isn't it? It's like all the air gets sucked right out of the room. And you know what? It's a feeling people have been dealing with for, well, forever.
Well, this is a story about two different groups of people who felt that exact way. They had their hopes crushed. Completely. They were so sure they understood God's big plan. But turns out, they had it all wrong.
But here's the crazy part. They had no idea that their massive disappointment was actually part of an even bigger, way better plan. So let's get into it, because what happens next is this amazing lesson about faith and how you can find light even when things feel super dark.
All right, so our story starts with these two groups. They lived hundreds of years apart, but they were both waiting for something absolutely amazing. They were so excited because they thought they'd figured out a secret code in the Bible and that something huge was about to go down.
And what's really wild is how similar their stories are. Check this out. Both groups had this massive hope, right? For the first group, it was for a powerful king. For the second, it was that the world was about to end. And for both of them, the proof was an ancient Bible prophecy. The problem? Well, they both kind of misread the instructions.
So the first group, the disciples, they thought Jesus was going to be this super king, ruling from a giant throne in Jerusalem. They'd read all the prophecies about a Messiah, but they got so caught up in the idea of a powerful king on earth that they kind of missed what the words were really saying. I mean, they were so sure they were right. Can you just imagine how that must have felt when the absolute opposite of what they were waiting for happened?
For Jesus' followers, that despair was just overwhelming. Their dream didn't just end, it was shattered in the worst way possible. They had to watch their hero, the guy they thought would be king, get arrested and put on a cross.
It felt like their entire world was ending. Was everything they believed just a big lie? I mean, that's the question that must have haunted them while Jesus was in the tomb. Their hopes were gone. It just felt over.
And then, hundreds of years later, William Miller's followers felt that exact same gut punch. The day they expected Jesus to return, well, it just came and went like any other day. And they had to deal with people making fun of them, and they had to ask themselves that same awful question. Did we just make a huge mistake? But what if the disappointment was actually part of the plan all along? This is the big twist. God actually allowed these big letdowns to happen, and it wasn't a mistake. It was a lesson they needed to learn.
Yeah. So why was this letdown allowed? Well, for a few reasons. First, to correct a big mistake they were making. Second, to kind of test their hearts, to see what was really inside. And third, to get them ready for a brand new job they didn't even know they had.
See, the disciples were expecting an earthly kingdom, but what they got was the start of the kingdom of grace. The kingdom of grace is all about God's work in people's hearts right now. And get this, it actually started when Jesus died, the very thing that made them so sad.
Now, that other kingdom, the kingdom of glory, that's the perfect one. The physical kingdom here on earth that's coming in the future. That's what both groups were looking for. But they just had the timing all wrong. And that big disappointment was exactly what they needed to finally understand the difference. So that huge letdown, it basically cleared up all their confusion so they could see their real mission. It was like wiping a super foggy window clean. Suddenly, they could see what was really going on and what God wanted them to do.
So let's talk about finding that light in the darkness. Because this is how that worst day ever actually led to the best news ever. Their whole perspective just flipped. Once they understood what was really happening, everything changed.
I mean, just look at what happened after the disappointment. Their sadness, it turned into total confidence. Their confusion, it became a super clear faith. That feeling of despair became a solid anchor of hope. They were finally ready for a mission that would change the entire world. They learned to trust God's plan, not just their own ideas.
And that's the key right there. The very event that caused all their pain was actually the key to their hope. For the disciples, Jesus' death felt like the end of everything. But when he came back to life, wow,
It proved they were right all along, just not in the way they thought. Their worst day became the best day.
There's an old saying, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And that is exactly what both of these groups went through. They had their darkest night for sure, but it was followed by the brightest morning.
So, what does all this mean for us today? Because this story isn't just about something that happened a long, long time ago. There's a really important lesson here for you and me.
So here's a question to think about. What disappointment in your life might God be using to get you ready for something amazing? The big idea is that even when things feel totally lost, when our hopes get crushed, there might be a secret plan at work, a plan to help us learn, to make us stronger, and to get us ready for our own incredible story.